The lost World War II window hack that outsmarts modern burglars better than tech ever could. If you want a hook, here it is. There's an old World War II home defense trick so effective, so ridiculously simple, and so cheap that modern burglars still struggle against it. It was born in blackout cities, perfected under falling bombs, and it quietly shielded thousands of families from both explosions and intruders. And the wild part? Most people today have never even heard of it. This is one of those historical gems that makes you stop and say, how did we forget this? How a war-torn generation fortified their windows with almost nothing. The first thing most people forget about World War II is that the danger didn't end when the bombs stopped. After every air raid came the secondary threats: broken glass, prowlers moving under cover of darkness, and desperate civilians searching for anything to steal. Windows, the soft spots of every home, became a liability overnight. And that's exactly why families across Britain and Europe started reinforcing them in ways that were part science, part improvisation, and part pure survival instinct. The technique was simple enough to teach a child, but effective enough that soldiers returning home after the war commented on how tough these windows were to break. It started with tape, brown paper tape, cloth tape, anything with adhesion. Instead of leaving panes bare, people applied the tape diagonally across each window in a bold X or multipoint star. It wasn't meant to stop a bomb. It wasn't even meant to keep glass intact. It was meant to control the break. When a shockwave hit, tape held the glass in bigger, slower-moving pieces rather than sending razor-sharp fragments flying. That meant, well, fewer fatal injuries. But here's the underrated part. Those tape panes didn't just break safer, they broke slower. They resisted impact. They resisted entry. And to a burglar or looter armed with nothing more than opportunity and a crowbar, that resistance was often enough to make them move on. World War II civilians, without realizing it, had invented cheap security laminate long before the world gave it a fancy name. Where things got interesting was the upgrade that came next. Once families saw the value of taped windows, many didn't stop there. Some households began fixing thin-gauge wire mesh to the inside of window frames, creating a tension barrier that acted like a primitive version of today's security screens. Nail it in place, leave a tiny offset between glass and mesh, and suddenly anyone trying to smash through your window had to deal with 2 layers of frustration instead of 1. The mesh distributed force. The tape held shards in place. The result? A window that might still break, but would refuse to give way. Enough to wake a sleeping family. Enough to send a prowler running. Even today, if you've ever tried breaking a window reinforced with tensioned mesh, you know it's no quick job. Modern burglars rely on speed, silence, and surprise. This trick ruins all 3. Here's the best part. You can recreate this entire system in a single afternoon, using materials that cost less than a cheap dinner. No need for electronics, no dependence on Wi-Fi, no false alarms, just physics, tension, and a bit of historical grit. Start by applying strong tape, duct tape, filament tape, or transparent security tape across each pane. Diagonal lines, that's key. Keep the tape clean and under tight tension. Remember, we're thinking reinforcement, not decoration here. The goal is to keep the glass bonded under stress. After that, cut galvanized steel mesh to fit the inside frame. Fasten it with thin wooden strips or metal brackets. The trick is tension. It needs to be firm enough that it feels solid when tapped, but not so tight that it curls. And if you want it to disappear from view entirely, choose matte black mesh. You've now got a modern version of a World War II blast-resistant window system. Tape for shock absorption, mesh for structural resistance. It's low-tech, but the payoff is really quite high. This is the sort of trick survivalists rediscovered decades later, amazed that history had already handed them the blueprint. Why rely solely on expensive laminates when a few tools and 20 minutes of work can transform a window into a barrier? Why this wartime trick matters more today than ever. Whether it's a power outage, a storm, an emergency, or plain old rising crime rates, windows are still the weakest point of any structure. And while technology is amazing, the truth is simple. Tech fails, electricity fails, apps crash. But tape and mesh? They don't care about outages, software updates, or signal interference. Whether it's a power outage, a storm, an emergency, or plain old rising crime rates, windows are still the weakest point of any structure. And while technology is amazing, the truth is simple. Tech fails, electricity fails, apps crash, but tape and mesh? They don't care about outages, software updates, or signal interference. What they offer is time. You know, a burglar wants 10 seconds. This trick, however, forces them into 30, 40, even 60 seconds of noise and effort. In home security, time is, well, everything. What makes this technique historically powerful isn't just the material, it's the mindset. Ordinary families in the 1940s refused to be helpless. They didn't wait for better tools. They made the tools. They turned fragile windows into defensive lines, using nothing more than, well, common sense engineering. That's survival thinking at its finest. You can still apply this thinking everywhere. If you've got a cabin off the grid, reinforce those windows before winter hits. If you're renting and can't install new hardware, tape and mesh give you a stealth upgrade. If you live in a storm-prone zone, this adds safety without the cost of heavy shutters. And if you're just a fan of practical history, this is one of the easiest projects to try. Just remember, subtlety is your friend. Modern clear tape blends into any home design. Painted mesh disappears behind blinds. You get security without the bunker look. Closing it out. History isn't a museum shelf, it's a toolbox. And the people who lived through the chaos of World War II left us more survival wisdom than most modern gadgets ever will. This forgotten window trick is proof of that. Cheap, effective, timeless. If you want more powerful historical survival tactics brought back to life, make sure you subscribe to HistoryHQ and share this with someone who appreciates real, hard-earned knowledge from the past. History still has lessons worth defending, and we're here to uncover every one of them.